Hi guys, sorry about the late video. It's been a crazy week of doing my spring cleaning and everything, but I hope you guys had a good week, and I hope you guys did the personal challenge last week, which was to look up scriptures with the word Father in them and see if there's anything that means something to you. For me personally, there's a couple that stuck out to me. Luke 6:36 says, "Be merciful, even as your Father is merciful." I thought that was kind of encouraging, because it kind of reminds us that on this planet, like, we're here representing our Father and showing the qualities that He shows, and especially that He shows us. And I just think it's really important to remember that. And I know just being merciful is just one example of who He is to us. And sometimes I like how later in this Bible study this week, it kind of shows all the characteristics, or many of the characteristics that God shows. I'm going to adjust the video a little bit. Sorry, it's just like really low. All right. Okay, so this chapter for the week is called Handpicked by God. It starts off with Ephesians 1:4 saying, "Just as He chose us in Him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and blameless before Him in love." I went ahead and looked in my Keyword Study Bible, and the word for blameless in Hebrew and Greek is unblameable, guiltless, and not chargeable in court. And I thought that was cool, because I know Revelation 12:10 calls Satan the accuser, and especially like the accuser of the brothers. And what I found interesting was that Satan, in Revelation 12:10, it says that, this isn't just something where Satan just throws out an accusation once in a while and is like, "Oh, hey God, someone did this." It says that he accuses us day and night. So he goes before God's throne every single day and every single night. He is non-stop accusing us and before God. And, this is just like on a constant basis. And, because God chose us to be blameless, God chose us, and it says before the world even began, He chose us. And that we should be unblameable, guiltless, and not chargeable in court. So basically, all of Satan's accusations that are constantly gone to God via the accuser, pretty much go to a deaf ear to God, because He doesn't hear it. It's not even a consideration of, oh, what did they do? It's kind of like He just says, okay, you can't charge them anyway, so it's, I don't know why you're coming to me. And so it's just kind of like, it's just falling on deaf ears. And I thought that was really cool. Also, I noticed in verse 11, Revelation 12:11, it says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And I thought that was interesting, because they're kind of using a lot of legal terms, but, we have being not chargeable in court, like being without blame, and just not only having like the blood of the Lamb, which of course is our salvation, but it says we overcome those accusations by not only that, but by our testimony, which is something like a big court word you hear. It's like if you get accused, you stand and say, "You know what, this is my testimony." And I looked into that word in my Key Study Bible, and it was actually another word for evidence. And I thought about it, and I was just like, we have the blood of the Lamb, but another big aspect of it is who has Jesus been to you, which is kind of what the chapter goes into, which is just, who is God in your life? Who is Jesus in your life? Not just repeating scriptures, or, I know a lot of people will say you're like Bible bashing me, that kind of thing. But who has Jesus been to you? And I thought that was, that's something that is infallible. I mean, you can't deny it if it's right in front of you, and if that's your reality. And so I thought that was a really cool part of the chapter. Let's see. So Margaret goes into this story of where she had a difficult situation, and she kind of just expands on that and gives a story of who Jesus is to her, who God is to her, by giving a big example of who he's been in her life. And later on, she goes into Psalms 139, and I know a lot of the questions in this chapter are based on Psalms 139. The ones that really stood out to me, that's actually, I was really excited about this because this has kind of been my constant prayer. This is something that through thick and thin with God, I am always praying this, and trusting that God is going to answer this prayer. But verses 23 and 24, they say, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me." And so it's like, so many times we can be in our prayers with God just asking for forgiveness. And I know for me personally, there's some times where I don't know if there's something in me that's not good. I don't know if there's something in me that is grieving God. Sorry, it's getting me a little emotional. But like a grievous, when I'm grieving God and I'm grieving the Spirit, I sometimes don't know that I am. And I don't know if you guys struggle with the same thing or go through the same thing, but it's kind of difficult. And so I'm always praying this prayer because I'm asking God to do the work for me. I'm saying, I want you to search my heart. I want you to know my heart. And I want you to know my thoughts. And I want you to test me and try me. And if there is anything that's grieving you in my life, lead me out of it and lead me into your way. And I also love that part of this paragraph that says, he knows every detail of our lives. But I thought it was really awesome because he says that he delights in every detail of our lives. And I'll go into a little more of that later. But the questions, number 1, it says, when in your life have you been reminded that you were hand-selected by God, and that he knows your number, and that no detail of your life has escaped his notice? I've been kind of reminded since birth. I truly believe that God saved my life when I was born, because I wasn't breathing when I was born, and I could have easily been gone. And I really believe that God saved my life. And also when he brought my husband and I together, it was nothing short of him. Like the only explanation for the way he brought us together was purely him. I was in another really crappy relationship. I'd gone through crappy relationship after crappy relationship, just desperate for that love and companionship, but never finding it. And it took almost a car accident and just some gentle nudges by God leading me in the right way, and some prayer, and let's just say through one of my friends, I prayed about what was going on in my life, and I didn't know what was going on, and it was really encouraging because after the car accident, or almost car accident, it was one of those cases where it was just, I don't know, God saved my butt on that one too. Let's just say I was like paralleling 2 lanes of traffic into oncoming traffic because of another car accident that was ahead of me, and it was just like totally not my fault of someone not watching where they were going, but it was crazy. And afterwards I asked my friend to pray for me, and I knew God was trying to tell me something, but I didn't know what it was. And come to find out, he was trying to tell me that I needed to break up with my current boyfriend because my real husband was waiting for me, and that I'd be meeting him within a few short weeks. And I did. Within the next few weeks, my husband came right into my life, and I thought God was totally ignoring me in this situation, and I was just like, hey, I don't know where in the heck my husband is. Like, am I supposed to just be single forever? And it just reminded me of how he was still there and still with me and still maneuvering every single little part of my life in order to get me to that strong part of my life. And that was just really encouraging. But number 2 says, do you tend to see everyday circumstances more as a result of happenstance or as divinely orchestrated by God? I'm more leaning towards I tend to attribute things to God. He's constantly showing up in my life and just showing me he's there. And I'm definitely a firm believer in Psalms 139:16, which states that every day was written out for me before it even existed, or before I even existed. So I believe that with all my heart, that a day that doesn't go by without me going in the direction that God's planning my life out in. So I don't know. I just think I tend to attribute things to God more. On the next page, number 3, there's scriptures on God's purposes in hand selecting you. Probably for me, the one that spoke to me the most was that I have received God's mercy so that I can proclaim the excellencies of Him who called me out of darkness into the light. And, that was 1 Peter 2:9-10, and it really meant a lot to me because, there wasn't really a point in my life where I ever felt I was completely in darkness, but there have been dark times in my life, and He's constantly calling me out into the light and constantly getting me out of the darkness. And even if there's a really dark time in my life, He's there and He gets me out of it every time. And I definitely love Him for that. And so that was a really important scripture to me. Number 4 says to read Psalms 139:1-6. In fact, I'll just kind of skim through because all of this is basically on Psalms 139. I'm going to skip through to number 7. The encouragement I found from realizing God knows so much about me was that I can remember that He knows because He cares. And one of my favorite scriptures is Psalm 56:8-9, which says, you have kept count of my tossings, put my tears in your bottle. This I know that God is for me. And I think it's so important to remember that God is for us and not against us, and that He's constantly there, and He's on our side. That's the great part is, we don't have to worry about, the accuser definitely accusing us or giving us a bad report to God. No matter what time of life we're in or period of life we're in, no matter what kind of darkness we're in, God is there and He keeps count of it, and He's for us, and that's really important. Number 8 goes into the different qualities of that you want God to develop in your life. I kind of went through the whole little chart, but a couple things I'll probably work on is mercy, long suffering, and bearing with others. Sometimes that can be a little difficult, but especially the long suffering, but I guess that just takes practice. So I feel like I've had a lot of practice in long suffering in my life, but I'm pretty sure God's going to give me more, considering I don't think I've learned to deal with it well yet. But the next page, let's see. I went into digging deeper in Jeremiah 29:11. And it says, when are you most tempted to doubt God has a plan and purpose in your life? And for me, it's when I have no plan. If I personally don't have a plan for the future, I'm like, I freak out, and I'm just like, if I don't have a plan, God doesn't have a plan. And because he's the one who's supposed to give me my plan. So, you know, and so it's just kind of a little bit crazy. But I think it's important to remember that even if we don't have a plan and we don't know what's going to happen next, or we're stuck in a rut, or your life's going in circles, that he's still there and he still has the plan, and that is his plan, and that you just got to keep going. But I'd like to end with Psalms 37:23. It says, "The Lord directs the steps of the godly. He delights in every detail of their lives." And I just want you guys to remember that this week, and just remember that every single detail of our life, like the smallest minute detail you can think of, he delights in it, and he delights in you guys. And just remember, you know, that God chose you, and that you guys are special and you are loved. And yeah, so have a great week. I encourage you to do the personal challenge, which says to, over the course of the next week, ask God to make you sensitive to his presence in your life, and each day make a list of the specific ways you recognize God at work in your life. And then next week we will quickly go over those. I'll go ahead and save mine on the video, and you guys can do a video back, or make a comment in the comments, and we'll move on. So have a great week, and I love you guys, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.